Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Action Show, where we talk to six, seven, eight-figure earners about their journey, the pitfalls, the successes, the challenges of entrepreneurship. I'm Nat Mogul, and today I'm so excited to be interviewing with Royal Banks, the founder and creator of the Paternity University. Welcome, Royal.
Hey, Natalie, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much for the opportunity to
You're
speak to your
welcome.
audience and let them know, kind of what opportunities are out there.
Thank you. So tell everybody, who is Royal Banks? What do you do? Who are you?
Yeah,
Tell the
absolutely.
listeners.
My name is Royal Banks. That is my actual name. It's not a screen name or anything. That's my name. I'm an Army officer, full time. For those that have been in the military and see this little scraggly of a beard that I have here, I'm on leave right now, so I grew my beard out these past few days. So I'm an Army officer. That's I wouldn't say 9 to 5. That's my 6 to 6. And on the side, I have built a paternity testing agency. So we do nationwide DNA paternity testing for legal and peace of mind reasons. People need these all the time. And a couple of years ago, we're going on 2 years in September. I created the pretty much the world's first course that teaches you how to start your own paternity testing agency. And we've got 140 students or so. 15, 20 of them are doing very well in their respective cities. And yeah, just that's me.
All right, so 2 years ago you started this business. Did you ever think 5 years ago that was this something in your sights, or like tell me how did it get
Yeah,
started?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my mom has been doing this for 22 years.
Okay.
She's been doing DNA paternity testing. So, I grew up kind of watching her do this and have this business. And so, 5 years ago, you're exactly right. 2018 was I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the time, and I was just more so trying to help my mom do her marketing for her business because she's very good at the testing aspect, but she needed help with the marketing aspect of it. And
Okay.
I was like, maybe one day I can, buy my mom out or something, something of that nature, like buy her out. I think we kind of works. And I was just like, no, okay. Fast forward, it's end of 2020. I was trying to wholesale a mobile home. And I was trying to like buy and sell a mobile home or something like that. I was into
Mhm.
that, like mobile home flipping and stuff like that.
Right.
And we had some money set aside. My wife had some money set aside for us. And it was just a pain in the butt. It was a pain to try to flip that mobile home because it was COVID. The DMV was closed. It
Mhm.
was a whole thing. And I was like, you know what? How about we just start a paternity testing company, like our own? You know what I mean? It does not take $7,000-$10,000 to start. And I've seen my mom do it. I just do my own and just
Right.
control that. And January 2021 is when it got officially started, and we've been rocking ever since.
So COVID is another COVID success story catapulted you into this
Yeah.
another this income stream, another a revenue stream, which is insightful. So quick question, I heard you say with your mom you wanted to buy her out. Was she like tired of it, or you just didn't want to see her work anymore?
Yeah, it was I think it might have been a selfish reason. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just didn't want to see her working. I was just like, she has an existing network essentially. How about what if I just broke mom off with whatever X amount that we were going to
Okay.
do or something like that, and let her kind of like be the consultant and run it, etc. It I had the right idea, but I'm like, after a while, I was like, nah, I'm gonna just do it on my own. Like, what I'm saying? I'm gonna just run my
Mhm.
own thing so I can get that experience and grow it the way that I want to grow it, etc. So now I've passed on. My mom has passed on a lot of information to me, and I've given a lot of my mom some information as well. So we just kind of work like we're like colleagues in a sense in the business.
Nice.
It's a in a sense we're colleagues. So that's how we operate.
I like it. Nice, nice. So what are some of the challenges that you've had in the last 2 years that you had to push through starting this business?
Yeah. I would say in the very beginning, I was trying to scale too fast. In the very beginning, a lot of people, become entrepreneurs or they start something on the side, and within the first month, they're like, okay, I got my first sale, or they haven't even gotten their first sale, and they're trying to scale and do nationwide or global business or whatever instead of focusing on their area, especially if you're a geographic service-based business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to scale too fast. I was trying to market to multiple cities without understanding the demands of each market and what people are willing to pay for first. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a challenge that I had in the first like 9-10 months or so, was just focusing on where I'm at, right?
Right.
The second challenge was, it wasn't really a challenge, but it's something I had to remind myself, was patience. It's like, yo, like you're not gonna be a, I knew that, but you're not gonna be a millionaire tomorrow with starting a
Mm-hmm.
bikini business. You're not. Like, you see the success stories on podcasts, cool, but like it takes time. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Perfect example, a little quick anecdote. My first year, my first full year in business, I had 35 clients. My first year, right? All
Right.
right, 35 clients, low five figures in revenue.
Okay.
First year, okay, all right, cool. Second year, 87 clients. Okay,
Double.
growth, right? This year, so as of what we're recording, March 16th, 2023, 38 clients, first
Wow.
2 months of the year. So just patience, 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 and be consistent. It will grow.
So you
Be
said
patient.
consistency. What were you consistent in?
Marketing,
Marketing.
marketing, and just being consistent and not like giving up. You know what I mean? Like, just
Right.
like you're not gonna get you're not gonna get a sell every single day. You're not. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
don't beat yourself up if in 3 months you've only done 5 sales. You just have to be consistent. Letting the algorithm work its thing in Google, letting your SEO, if you, whatever work it's, just be consistent. That's what it is. To just keep going. Like my favorite rapper, Larry June, he says all the time, just keep going. Like literally, just keep going. Just don't stop. I know it sounds like a platitude, but
No, that's it's actually very interesting, and I like your transparency. That's real because a lot of us, even with myself, as soon as something starts working, we get excited, and we don't really. I was in a leadership class the other day, and they were talking about even when you have a win, that you should go back and prepare, do preparation for
yeah,
what the next win is going to look like. We get so excited about this win that we don't really use that win to forecast the future, right?
yeah,
And so, like you're saying, I'm like, oh wow, this works. I could do this. I got a cousin in New York. I got a cousin
yeah, yeah,
up here. We can
yeah,
just spread this business out and just make M's. And it's
yeah.
like not for some people that might work, and for others we have to go through that process. So appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Um, so tell me about the school. How did the school transpire? So at first, if I'm
Yeah.
hearing you correctly, you were doing just paternity tests where people were coming for paternity tests. Before you tell me about the school, because I was looking it up, there's a lot of different type of paternity tests. I was looking
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
legal paternity tests,
Yeah.
immigration paternity tests. Can you
Yep.
speak to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. 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 Yeah. So I always love to speak on the business. I mean, the course is great. The course is awesome. I get to bring students in, but like the business aspect is what I love. So, um, yes, people get paternity tests for a multitude of reasons. All right, you see it on Mari and paternity court. Yeah, a lot of that's theatrics, but the basis of it is real. They're trying to determine who the father is, or if they are the father, for either personal reasons or for legal reasons. All right.
Right.
Amongst those legal reasons could be child support, child custody, adding or trying to remove a name from a birth certificate. If an alleged father passes and never established paternity, and children come out of the nowhere and says, "Yep, I'm entitled to his social security benefits or his death benefits or his will or something," a paternity test or a genetic relationship test has to be done to prove paternity before proceedings to proceed in court. All right. So it's reasons why this stuff happens. It's specific, very reasons. And this is why, quite frankly, I don't think this is ever going anywhere. This is not, it's not going to go away. Immigration reasons, absolutely. If somebody wants to bring in a relative, alleged father, child, whoever wants to bring in somebody from another country, the U.S. government requires that they get a genetic test through an AABB accredited laboratory. Um, that lab would then coordinate with the embassy overseas to ensure that that test is done properly and legally. It's not going anywhere. It's
Yeah,
not
that
going.
I was shocked when I saw that today. I was like, immigration. Let me look that up.
Yeah,
Look, and I'm like,
passport reasons.
yeah,
Somebody passport reasons. Um, uh, uh, Prenatal paternity testing. A woman is pregnant and wants to determine who the father is. that I get a lot. I get calls for that every single day, multiple times a day. Pregnancy paternity testing is a thing. It's not going away.
So your
As long as
business handles all scopes.
yes, we handle everything. We handle everything nationwide with the ability to handle nationwide and globally too. I've done collections for a laboratory in Germany. I've coordinated a DNA test for a gentleman in Jordan. You know, he was in Jordan. He was all over the place. That dude was flying everywhere. You know, he was in Jordan. I had a student of mine who coordinated a DNA test for somebody in Brazil. So it's not going anywhere. And you know, these are tests to determine who the father or what relationship they may have to the father. It's not determining your genetic bloodline or your ancestry or anything like that. It's determining who the father is for either legal purposes or peace of mind purposes. And that's what I do.
Nice. Have you ever had, like, tell me a wild story?
Yeah. Oh man.
What are the wildest stories?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to think of a recent one, but one of the first in-person legal test that I ever did, the first in-person like swab that I did, was for a woman who was like, "Hey, I need this DNA test. I don't know if my husband is the father of our young child, right?
Right.
You know, all right, cool, fair enough. That's what I do, right? I don't
Mhm.
judge none of that stuff. All right, fair enough. I do the test. I swab her. I swab him. I swab the child, right? So
Mhm.
everybody was there.
Right.
Okay, cool. Results come. He's not the father, right? He's not the father.
Right.
And she goes through essentially the 5 stages of grief, essentially, right?
Hmm.
You know, like denial and then finally acceptance. So in the stage of like denial, she calls me. She's like, "Hey, are these results real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I wouldn't sell, you know, services that no, I wouldn't do that." And then she says, "Okay, all right, cool." And then she hangs up. Next day she calls. She's like, "Hey, quick question. If he drinks alcohol, like if he's like an alcoholic, would that affect the test? Like, would that affect his DNA?" And I was like, "No.
No.
Like, alcohol doesn't affect somebody's DNA, their genetic makeup." And then she was like, "Okay, fine." Then she called back. She was like, "Okay, yeah, it was my ex lover." You know what I mean? It was just like it was just a whole thing that lasted all these days. Another one. This is a more serious one. Um, and this is the reason why people get these done. A woman, and I don't say names, locations, any of that stuff, but
Hmm.
a woman had been assaulted years ago and had a child because of that assault. Okay,
Right.
um, child grew up, and later, my VA handled this call wonderfully. She was my virtual assistant was on the phone with this woman for 50 minutes and not just giving out prices, but like consoling her. No, I'm not a therapist. She's not a therapist, but just some people need somebody to talk
Just
to.
empathy. Yeah.
Empathy. Yes. And there you yes. Operate with empathy. So the woman decides that she wants to press charges against this gentleman for the assault that happened. And
Right.
the court literally said, okay, you want to press charges, and as a result, this child was born. You need let's start with getting a paternity test because you know there is no evidence essentially from 30 years ago, right?
Right.
So we coordinate the paternity test, the court admissible paternity test, and it turns out that that man was the father. And so she goes in court, and the reason why these legal DNA tests are important, we have certain documentation. Weeks later, her detective calls who she'd been working with, and he's like, "Hey, you sent her the results, but can you please send the actual paperwork that was done to prove that this gentleman actually went to go take this test? It's a whole procedure for that stuff."
Right.
He was like, you know, you can send it to me or we can subpoena your agency. That's what he said. And I was like, no,
Right.
I got you. I sent it straight to the detective, like with her approval. So this is the importance of that stuff. It's not just like baby daddy nonsense all the time,
Right.
all the time,
Yeah. When I
right?
did the research, I looked that up. I was like, wow, this is like really serious business.
It is
And
very
it's going
serious.
to be around for a very long time as long as people are going to be procreating
Yeah,
and
yeah,
humans are on this earth, as long as we have a legal system,
that is
child
correct.
support, people coming into the country. I'm still like shocked about that.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing, and you know immigration is a big issue right now. So
yes,
you are vital in the community.
yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, that
So
is true.
That's good that you got into. I'm happy that there's I can see a black face into this, because I always wondered when
Yeah,
I'm doing when I'm watching when I used to watch Maury, like who are the people bringing
yeah,
these
yeah.
test results? So that would be you and your organization. So what are some of the legal ramifications? Because people will. I've heard this. I have a little wild story that I wanted to
Sure.
like share too, because
Go
that's
ahead.
why I asked you about yours. I have a best friend, and he was married, had a girlfriend, and had a girlfriend. The
Hmm.
girlfriend said that she was pregnant, and he just said something just didn't feel right. She would never let him get the kid by herself. Anyway, one day he went and did a paternity test, and all three of them went. And the mom was in denial because he's not the father. And she's like,
Mhm.
"No, you did something. You paid the people at the agency. You know a lot of people, because he's has a lot of notoriety in the city." And she's like, "You paid someone. So can you speak to that? Like, how are you protected by law? And what are like with me, like my background is in therapy. I have to answer to the behavioral health board, right? I do anything wrong, unethical, I
Yeah,
have to answer to them. Who do you answer to, and how are you protected when these
sure,
people who are in denial
sure,
come and want to
sure.
they don't want to accept the truth?
Yeah, yeah. So good question. To prevent that, so I don't answer to a board or an agency or a laboratory. I don't.
Okay.
What I would answer to is a subpoena from a judge,
Okay.
if it came down to that. Now, to prevent stuff like that,
Mhm.
yes, okay. When a client calls, I ask them, "Do you need this for legal purposes or peace of mind purposes?" Now, the legal DNA test, the court admissible one, we use something called a consent form or a chain of custody form.
Okay.
Okay, they fill that out. It's a third party like myself. We handle that test. By the way, I don't do tests for people that I know. All right. So I
Okay.
can't know you. All right. So there
Ethical.
is none of that right there.
Ethics.
Right. Exactly. So we fill out a form. We take a picture of you and your ID holding the baby or whoever at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or if we do a pregnancy paternity test, we take a picture of your vials. We scan everything that you signed in on this date at this time at this location. You did this. You were aware. Okay. And we seal it and we send it off directly to the laboratory. It does not go to anybody else. The client never takes that stuff, those samples or that paperwork. And so it goes through a process to where anybody who's ever worked in forensics would know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Chain of custody. It goes through a process where it is an undeniable truth that it went through these specific steps so that and it's notarized and signed off by a medical doctor. All right. It so that if it ever goes to court or if somebody ever says, "Well, you did this, you did that," and they ever want to take it to court, the judge will just say, "This was done by an AABB accredited laboratory with a chain of custody, and the chain of custody was not broken, and you were there at this time." And if they ever call me and I'll say, "Yep, I was there," or I had a collector do this, here's it all signed off. Got it. And the judge will say, "All right, there's nothing. Yeah, it happened." Now, if it's a non-legal test, meaning it can't be used in court, there is none of that done. I can
Okay.
still sell those, right? But it's
Mhm.
not court admissible. So if whomever ever says, "Well, you did this or you did that," well, you elected to get a non-admissible DNA test, like non-court admissible DNA test, and the court is aware that those things exist. So you can't do anything legal with that. Like you can't.
Right.
And then also having insurance
Right.
protects you, like
Got
general liability insurance, stuff like that
good
protects you.
old insurance.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I have not had an issue like that yet. Yet it is it bound to happen? Yet, knock on wood.
Mhm.
But dealing with people, and sometimes people both sides are in denial, complete denial. But like I said, we do those
Absolutely.
chain of custody tests to prevent stuff like that.
Absolutely. So would you recommend, like, speak to the people watching, anyone watching this, if they go to get, if it's for peace of mind, would you recommend that they do it the legal way just to cover themselves for future?
So yeah, so what I do is if anybody if when I for my qualifying questions, right, to somebody calling in, I'll say, "Do you need this test for legal reasons or peace of mind reasons?" And if I hear anything like, "I don't know," or maybe I might need it for court purposes in the future, or maybe I'm like, "Do you ever think that you are ever going to enter a courtroom with any of this stuff ever for the rest of your life?" And if they say, I don't know, I just say, get a legal DNA test. Just get it. Just go ahead and get it. I don't really try to convince them too much,
Right.
but I'd be like, do you ever think that you're ever going to do anything? Or do you think that he or she is going to try to come back at you in court for anything legal, anything ever for the remainder of your entire life? And if they're like, no, all right, fair enough, non-legal. They say yes or maybe, pay the extra $100 for a court-admissible chain of custody paternity test to prevent stuff like that. Or
You heard
not,
that, people.
but
You
have
heard
it ready.
The affairs of the heart are tricky, so best to just cover
Yes.
yourself. You're going to
Also,
get that DNA test.
another tip to those listening and watching, okay? If you get a non-legal test, a test either from Walgreens or a test from me or a test from one of my students out there, right? A non-legal, non-court admissible test, right? When you get the results, all right, you cannot change the results to a legal DNA test. You can't just like go get it notarized and get a legal DNA, or you can't just call me up and be like, hey, can you just, you're gonna have to get a whole nother DNA test with a chain of custody. So if you are trying to, I'm not going to lie, if you're trying to be cheap now and try to pay $200, $300 for a non-legal right now, and you don't want to pay the extra $100 for a legal, and later on you want to get a legal test, you're going to have to pay $400 or $500 again. Or another $400 or $500. Just get the legal DNA test.
Thanks for the clarity on that.
If you ever think you're ever going to use
listen to this knowledge, people. Listen to this game, this free game. Just pay the fees up front. So if I pay $350 as opposed to me having to pay $700, $800.
Yeah, double. And that's the thing. I'm transparent, and I teach my students, by the way, to be transparent, empathetic, and communicative. Right. So if a client is confused, a lot of leads, they don't know this stuff. They don't. Only thing they ever seen with paternity testing is Mari, right?
Right.
The guy, he reads the results and she runs backstage and all that stuff. That's all you see, right? But you don't know. There's implications to certain things. They don't know. So you have to educate, but don't be snobbish with your education of them. Be empathetic with your hey, let them know, hey, this is the game. You know, especially if I get a young man, especially calling who does not know, or young woman as well. But a young man who calls and they're calling around and other agencies are not answering their phones, I'm like, hey, man, listen to me. Peep game. All right. This is
peep game, y'all.
Go this route. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Go that route, you know. So yeah.
I love it. So how long does it take for the test to come back?
Oh, it's pretty fast. One of the labs I work with, it could be 2 business days. Fast.
Wow.
Fast. Yeah. And we overnight the samples to the lab, and usually the day after that they get results. Another lab I use is about 3 to 4 business days. And that's a good question because some people call in, they're like, okay, I want a DNA test. They might be shocked with the price. I'll tell them it's $200, $300, or $400, right? Mm-hmm. Or for prenatal, it might be $1,800, right? And they'll say, why is it that much? You know, it's because we're a private agency. We use labs that are a lot faster. You could go through the court system. You could go through the court, but they might be slower. It might take you a week or 2 to get an appointment, or it might take you 30 minutes to get on the phone with them, maybe, depending on where you're at, right? Or the child support court or whoever is going to refer you out to somebody like me, a private agency who is just a lot faster. So you're paying for convenience, efficiency, speed, and communication. That's what they're paying for. See what I'm saying? So yeah.
Speed, communication, efficiency.
Yep.
That's like it.
Yep.
So how does one get into the paternity business?
Sure, absolutely.
Is that what your school teaches?
My school.
Tell us about that.
My course teaches you exactly how to. So yeah, I mean, you know, you can look on my YouTube and you can piece the information, you know, if you wanted to.
And what's your YouTube? Let the people know.
Paternity University is my YouTube.
So go on to Paternity University, everybody, on YouTube, at
Twitter.
Subscribe, and get this information. You never know when you are a family member, they just need it.
Never know. Yeah. So yeah, you know, one could binge. I got like 80 something videos on my YouTube or something like that where I'm talking about this stuff, interviewing people. Okay. So I mean, essentially you reach out to laboratories. There's a couple of labs out there that do DNA testing and say, hey, I want to be a corporate partner. I want to be a distributor. And then they'll essentially set you up with an account. The beautiful thing about DNA testing, the paternity testing business, is that it's a low startup cost. Natalie, I'd like you to feel free to ask me, how much do you think it costs to start a DNA testing company. I would just like you to throw out a number. Feel free.
I'll say maybe $1,500.
Uh, okay, yeah, a little bit lower than that. Around, depending on where you're at, like around maybe $500 to $800, maybe.
Wow, 800?
Yeah, possibly. Like this is if you're brand new, you never opened a business before. Like this is getting your entity form, your LLC, which could range, but like Georgia is $100, right?
Yeah,
California might be $300.
yeah.
Texas, I think it's like $300 or something.
Texas is 307.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right? And so it's that the beautiful thing about when you reach out to these laboratories and you want to partner with them, they don't charge you for the DNA testing kits. You can't really. Here you go. This is part of a kit.
Okay,
They don't charge you up front for those. You don't have to buy those up front. They actually
okay.
send you a box of those for free, and they charge you
Nice.
in the back end when you send in the samples. So the startup cost is minimal. It's instating an entity, getting a website up, right? Getting a separate phone line, which I always recommend, Google Voice, Open Phone, or
Right.
whatever. They don't pay me, by the way. And what, like getting a logo or something that might cost like $40 or something, right? Getting a
Fiverr.
yeah, Fiverr, exactly. Getting on Google My Business, that's free, right?
Right.
Getting on Google My Business is free, but it can take time because it's my gosh. But that's it. Like that's it. And then having a marketing budget, maybe like setting aside $200-300 for the first month of Google Ads or something like that. That's all you need. You don't have to buy equipment, other than a pen, a glue stick, and maybe some small manila envelopes.
Wow.
You don't have to buy DNA sequencing. All that stuff is handled by the laboratory. See, the thing is, the laboratories, they don't have the bandwidth to test every single person in the entire country. They don't. So they rely on distributors to expand.
Kind of like the COVID.
Yes,
They
exactly.
set up little booths and little trailers everywhere because they didn't have the capacity of everyone coming into a lab.
Exactly. The labs don't have the capacity to do every single test in every single city in every single state in the entire country. They don't. They're not going to hire W-2 employees. They're not going to set up little they're not in every single place. Okay.
Gotcha.
So a distributor comes along and you're a reseller of their product essentially. And then you can price your services how you see fit and take the profit from there.
Nice. That's interesting. I would have never thought about a paternity, a DNA paternity business, but I'm definitely thinking about it now. I'm going to investigate a little bit more. I was looking on your Instagram and I saw one of your students, and he was like, he made $1,200, I think, in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Roscoe, man, that's my guy out in Dallas. He sold it differently too. He sold a pregnancy paternity test, which I advise everybody to price between, at the low end, $1,600 to the highest end, $1,800, because the lab charges you about $950 to $1,200 to process that. So for your profit, charge higher, right? Mm-hmm. And so he, a woman called in that needed a prenatal paternity test, non-invasive. And what he did it differently. He charged her as her deposit. He charged her the fee that he would pay the lab. So he just got that all up front.
Right.
And for her to receive her results, he essentially was like, all right, pay the remaining balance off of X amount, and the rest was his profit. So he was just on the phone with her for 30 minutes. Not even that. I think he was on the phone with her for like 20.
Wow.
Charged her at $1,200, got that, and then started coordinating with the place that he would send her to go get. Now, mind you, he never saw her because I teach him, of course, how to outsource. I've had 38 clients this year so far in March. I've only seen 2 in person, 2, because I outsource everything.
You're just like a middleman.
I am. I'm a middleman consultant, essentially. That's what I am.
That's nice.
With the ability to you're what my friend Rafael says, who was on the show, quarterbacking. You're just calling plays. I have virtual assistants that they're answering calls for me right now while I'm on this podcast. You get to that point after a while where you operate systems so that you're not burning yourself out. You know what I mean? Nice. Like over time, you develop systems so that ultimately, if you get systems involved, you can sell your business later on. A lot of Black folk, we don't think about exit plans,
exit strategy. Yeah,
exit strategy. We don't think about that. We think it's lifestyle, or you start. That's cool. And okay, fine. If that's what you want to do, cool, for sure. Me, I want to exit at some point in time. Yeah, whether that's 10 years from now, 20, who knows? But I know I ain't gonna tell all y'all. I want to get acquired, right? So
Right.
how do I do that? Set up systems. I just kind of ranted a little bit, but
It's kind of like Miele and Shea Moisture. Everybody was so mad at
yeah,
them, but that was their
that's
exit
the extra stuff.
strategy. That, but if you don't understand business, you don't know.
Yes,
That was like you shared a wealth of knowledge with us. Before we
sure.
tap out of this call, tell the people, give us some words of wisdom that I'm
Yeah,
gonna shut up and just tell us some words of wisdom on being an entrepreneur. You have a job and a side business.
yeah,
You
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
quit. Give us some words of wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you have a job and you're doing this, like get to the point where you can set up a system as soon as you possibly can. It costs to do that. It costs to have somebody answering your calls or having a VA. So maybe set aside some money so that you can pay them consistently. But at least start mapping out your system. If you're having a job and doing this at the same time, how are you going to, hire somebody to answer your calls or whatever? The other part of it is literally, like I said earlier, consistency. Just literally do not give up. Like part of this stuff is just not shutting down your business or being like, you know what, I'm done. I'm on to the next thing. Um, the next shiny object. It's so easy to get shiny object syndrome. Hell, you're looking at me. I'm talking about paternity testing. You might be doing notary right now, or you might be doing Amazon FBA, whatever it's called, right? And then you're like, oh, paternity, I'm gonna do no. Like focus on whatever you're doing, focusing on that, whatever it is, focus, hyper, intense focus, laser focus on that thing with consistency, and you will see results. If you're switching every 6 months to a new hustle, like it's not gonna work out. Like ultimately, you want to hyper focus on something until you determine, okay, this is actually not working for real, for real. This is not working. I'm not meeting the points that I want to make, is not, and I've been consistent, then you may consider pivoting to something else. So that's that's my advice.
Thank
Consistency.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Consistency, laser focus, and don't switch every 6 months.
Yeah.
Stay focused on your vision. Thank you for that. And thank you everybody for tapping in to this episode today. I want you to definitely go follow Royal Banks and learn more about his Paternity University. Tap into his social media, his at Royal Banks on Twitter,
Oh, I'm
Instagram.
at Royal Skigi, at Royal Skigi. So I went to Tuskegee University. So
Okay.
Royal and then S as in Sam, Kegee, Royal Skigi. That's where I'm most active. I really don't be on
At
Instagram.
Royal Tuskegee.
Royal Skigi, R O Y
Royal
A L.
Skegee. Okay,
Yeah,
got you.
R O Y
Say
A
it one more
L
time.
Skegee, ROYAL Skegee is where you can find me.
All righty. Thank you again. And thank you everyone for watching another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. See you
Thank you.
soon.
Appreciate it. Cool, cool, cool.